Something's not right. For several consecutive days recently, after I played basketball and went to the supermarket to buy an iced cola, the boss didn't charge me. He said kindly, "Help yourself. Drink as much as you like." At first, I thought the supermarket was having some kind of promotion. Later, when I asked my basketball-playing buddies, I found out that only I got it for free. Aiden, who just spent $4 on an iced cola, said enviously, "Nolan, doesn't the supermarket owner take a fancy to you and want you to be his son-in-law?" Mason snatched his Coke and took a sip. Here's a little-known fact. The supermarket owner only has a son who is our age. He studies at university next door. He's a top student at a prestigious university. Where on earth are you two guys' minds wandering? I crushed the empty Coke can and threw it straight at Aiden. Aiden turned his head and just managed to avoid it. Then how do you explain that he only treats you to Coke? Maybe he thought I was handsome. After thinking for a long time, I decided to go back to the supermarket. The boss wasn't there. There was only a tall guy with bangs over his eyebrows at the front desk. He had his head down, with his short hair covering his forehead, and was turning the grilled sausages in the machine. It's just that the guy wasn't good at it. The grilled sausages didn't turn out well and were all burnt and burst, not looking very presentable. Appearance. Frowning, he took out these burnt sausages and was about to throw them into the trash can. Wait. After all, the boss had bought me so many cans of Coke. I smiled at the guy and said, "It's such a waste to throw them away. How about I buy them all? It's a pity to throw them away. How about I buy them all?" After hesitating for a few seconds, the guy handed me the grilled sausages. I took a bite and comforted him. "They smell nice. They just don't look good. It's just that they don't look very good." I felt quite full after eating 4 grilled sausages. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed a whole basin of burnt sausages behind him. I rubbed my forehead and changed the subject, saying, "Is the boss not here today? My dad went to make a delivery this afternoon. I'm helping him out for a while." Suddenly, the boy looked up and our eyes met just as I happened to raise my eyes. My heart skipped a beat. He is the high achiever son of the supermarket owner. I didn't expect him to look nothing like a nerd. He was wearing a vest, and the lines of his biceps clearly showed that he worked out. "That's perfect," I said, shifting my gaze and scanning the QR code on the payment counter. "I'll settle the bill for the Coke I had before." There were 5 bottles in total. The boy quickly covered the QR code with his hand, his face flushing. "You don't have to pay." I gave him a puzzled look. "This is on me." I tried to get the payment code back from his hand, but my finger accidentally brushed across his palm. The boy stiffened up all over. I felt a bit sorry, withdrew my hand, and said in a flurry, "No, I've got the money." The boy quickly coughed twice, and said with red ears, "Actually, I'm treating you to these colas because I want to ask you something. Would you like to be my boyfriend?" My eyebrows twitched, and I was a bit amused and annoyed at the same time. Do I look like a gay? It doesn't make sense to come out just for a few bottles of cola. The boy quickly explained, "It's only for 1 day. Just help me deal with my suitor." Seeing that I still didn't agree, he got so anxious that he started talking more. "There's a girl in school chasing me. I don't want to be in a relationship, so I told her I like boys. As a result, there are now male students pursuing me. So, if possible, could you accompany me to school for just 1 day and make an appearance with me? I'll cover all your cola expenses at school." It's hard to imagine that a top student from a prestigious school would plead with me like this. On second thought, being coy would only make it more obvious. "Okay, let's do it tomorrow. I don't have any classes anyway." After exchanging contact information, there were only 2 cold notes in the chat box. "Dylan, Nolan." I thought I should say more, but since he didn't respond, and I'm not the proactive type, I decided to drop it. Early the next morning, I was woken up by my alarm. When I checked the time, I realized I was almost late again, so I quickly packed up. Then I rushed to the main entrance of School A, where Dylan was waiting for me. He was wearing a white shirt and had a tall figure. From afar, he really looked like the male protagonist in a youth novel. He was delicate and upright, and there was a faint scent of body wash on him. Even the faint smell of sweat was infused with the fragrance of the body wash. I parked the car and walked up to him. He handed me a pancake. "You didn't have breakfast, right? I bought you an egg pancake. You're quite thoughtful." "Thanks. I was starving." I grabbed the egg pancake and stuffed it into my mouth. This egg pancake is also available in your family's supermarket, and the taste is not much different. Not much. Dylan smiled but said nothing. Dylan is a top student in the business school. He chose a seat in the front row. I sat beside him reluctantly and always felt a bit warm all over. The looks from the people around weren't friendly, and there were even whispers of discussions. The professor who was giving a lecture on the stage noticed me and said, "This student looks unfamiliar. Are you here to audit the class?" "Sir, I glanced at Dylan beside me, took a deep breath, and said, "I'm Dylan's boyfriend." After I said that, I nervously touched my neck. For just a few bottles of iced cola. I'm really sacrificing my reputation. Boyfriend? Yes. What's your major? Computer science. Right? After the professor finished asking me those questions, there were more discussions among the students below. Dylan really has a boyfriend. I thought he was lying to us. How could he lie to you? Have you ever seen him sitting close to anyone in the past year? Yeah, you're right. For the next hour, I experienced what it means to sit restlessly. Finally, when the class was over, I rushed out quickly to breathe some fresh air outside. Unexpectedly, a boy patted me on the shoulder and said, "Classmate, I'm from the computer science major." "Oh, hello." I just raised my hand to say hello, but the next second, he gave a cold snort and said, "There's no one like you in our major." I got it. He's here to pick a fight. You're definitely lying to us. Could it be that Dylan specially asked you to pretend to be his boyfriend? This blonde-haired boy is named Daniel. He's wearing tight clothes and keeps using inappropriate language, spitting everywhere. I took a step back in disgust. Sure enough, education can only filter out most people with low intelligence. There are still a small number of exceptions. How could Dylan like someone as skinny as you? Isn't he afraid of breaking you? Ha ha ha. Judging from the hostility of this blonde-haired guy, he must be one of those who pester Dylan. A tough rival. I retorted impatiently. Do you think Dylan would like someone like you? I said I'm studying computer science. I didn't say I'm from your school. What's wrong with a cross-school relationship? After I finished speaking, I saw Dylan coming out of the classroom with a bag on his back. I ran over and put my arm around his shoulder. Then I looked back and gave the boy a smug raise of the eyebrows. "You'll pay for this." The blonde-haired boy was extremely angry. "Dylan, you have no idea how red that boy's face was just now." Dylan twitched the corner of his mouth, and I noticed it. "Did you just smile?" "No." "Well, I gotta say it felt pretty good. This can be considered as dealing with one." When the words rival were about to come out of my mouth, I suddenly realized something was off. So I swallowed them back. You really appeal to both genders. Dylan walked me to the school gate and handed me a can of Coke. He said, "Thanks for your help. This Coke is for you." When my fingers touched the Coke can, I frowned and said, "Why isn't it cold today? Drinking too much cold stuff is bad for your health." When I went back to the dorm with the can of Coke, my roommates immediately surrounded me, in an exaggerated tone. "Nolan, you've become a big deal beyond the school, right now. The top posts on the Tiaba of both University A and our University B are about you and Dylan." Aiden snatched the can of Coke from my hand curiously and exclaimed, "Come on. What's going on? Are you gonna betray the supermarket owner who treats you like a daughter-in-law and start a relationship with our big shot Dylan?" Mason turned the computer screen towards me. It was the campus post bar of University A. "Guys, I'm so into the ship of Dylan and his sweetie. I get it. He went to the school gate to pick him up personally early in the morning and even brought egg pancakes." Understood. They were chatting and laughing in class. They're so close. Got it. They even walked out of the classroom in each other's arms after class. There are pictures as evidence. When did you start dating behind our backs? No. When did you come out of the closet behind our backs? The words for explanation lingered on my lips for a long time, but I finally swallowed them back. I changed the topic and asked, "Is Dylan really that popular?" Aiden said with admiration on his face, "Absolutely. Dylan was admitted to University A through recommendation. But what I admire about him is not that. He's never lost a basketball game. He's the king of basketball. He's the king of basketball." Mason also joined in and said, "Not to mention, he's also really good at playing games. It's easy for guys to admire someone. If a person plays games and basketball well, that's enough for them to remember him. What's more, Dylan is good at both. Is he really that amazing?" Looking at Dylan's pretty boy appearance, I was a bit skeptical. I've never heard of anything he's not good at. Maybe, I thought for a while, he's pretty bad at grilling sausages. What? Getting off topic. So, are you really together with Dylan? remembering that I promised Dylan to keep it a secret at least for now. Ooh. The whole dorm roared. They took off their clothes one after another, baring their upper bodies, and said, "We're offering you a treat. Do you want it?" I threw a pillow at them and shouted, "Get out of here. So when are you going to invite your boyfriend to play a game of basketball with us? Strangely enough, every time you're on our team, he's not around." Okay then. I thought for a while and then took out my phone. But the conversations between me and Dylan never exceed 3 words. First, say what the other person wants to hear. Then, say what the other person can accept. Finally, say what you want to say. Your skills are good. You must have practiced a lot. How about we have a game? Pfft. A roommate next to me leaned over and unexpectedly sprayed me in the face with saliva. No one chats like that. You'll scare him to death. It was a long time before the other person replied. I was just giving a class presentation. Do you want to have a basketball match? Okay. Nolan happily closed his phone. Suddenly, his roommate put his hands on Nolan's shoulders and shook him wildly. Look, the campus love list of University A has been updated. You and Dylan have shot to the top all of a sudden. Oh my God, this guy actually projected his class presentation on the screen. Immediately, someone in the audience shouted, "Dylan, you're really good at it." Everyone saw you praising his skills. Someone even wrote a fanfiction about you too. The title is, "A Beautiful Love, the Wind of Missing You Finally Reached University B." University. So sweet. Do you want to take a look yourself? Get out of here. By the way, Dylan is sitting in the front row. You could quickly close the chat interface with him. Why did it take you so long? It's been a long time. What else could it be? You're just slow to react. 3 days later, there will be a basketball game between the boys from our computer science major and those from the neighboring law major. We invited Dylan, but unexpectedly, the law major invited that blonde-haired guy from last time. That blonde-haired guy recognized me at a glance. He walked over with a few other guys, with their arms around each other's shoulders, and provoked me, saying, "Are you Nolan? Be careful later." Mason didn't like it and casually put his arm on my shoulder, saying, "You should be the one who's careful. Dyeing your hair blonde makes you look like a non-mainstream. People might think that everyone in your school is a hooligan." It wasn't until Dylan walked over that both sides calmed down. It's called a friendly game. But in fact, both sides' goals are quite obvious. They just want to win. Dylan is really good at playing basketball. His shooting percentage is almost. When the ball was passed to him, he made a clean block. The law school team kept losing, and the score gap gradually widened. Dylan made another feint and passed the ball to me without hesitation. I caught it steadily and turned around to make a 3-pointer. Unexpectedly, someone suddenly kicked my knee at this moment. My knee went weak, and I lunged forward due to inertia. My leg rubbed hard against the ground. I couldn't hold the ball steady, so I missed the shot. The opponent immediately snatched the ball and made a successful layup. The referee didn't blow the whistle. At the moment of the goal, the students from the law major stood up from the spectator seats and cheered nonstop. Damn it. Foul. I felt a sharp pain in my knee. I struggled to my feet and wanted to get an explanation. Those guys from the law school looked like they were already the winners. I just can't stand those who foul and still act so arrogantly. My knee was badly scraped. The skin was broken and it was bleeding, which affected my walking. I finally managed to stand steady, but then I almost fell again without paying attention. Just then, a hand held me up. I looked back and saw that Dylan was pressing his lips tightly together and his face was terribly dark. Seeing what was happening here, Mason and Aiden also rushed over immediately. "Are you okay, Nolan? Those guys kicked you right in the knee. They got the score by fouling and are still being so arrogant. It's so strange. Why doesn't the referee blow the whistle?" They all felt indignant for me. "Hey, Dylan." Dylan directly picked me up. I felt a flush on my face and said, "Actually, I can do it myself." Dylan said in a low voice, "Don't move." Behind us, Aiden caught up and said, "Dylan, do you know where the infirmary is? I'll take you there." On the way, Dylan carried me to the infirmary. We received a lot of strange looks from people around, but Dylan seemed not to notice. He was so stubborn that he insisted on carrying me to the infirmary before putting me down. There are many ways to take me to the infirmary, and I'm not that badly injured. There were already some rumors about me and Dylan. Now it's even better. There's no need to explain anymore, and the rumors are confirmed. I had a lot of complaints, but when I saw Dylan anxiously put me down and hurriedly called the doctor, I swallowed them back. It was forced back. It seems that in Dylan's eyes, I was really badly hurt. He was really worried, too. The doctor was about to disinfect with the antiseptic solution when Dylan suddenly said, "Doctor, please be gentle, classmate. I haven't started disinfecting yet. And it's not you I'm disinfecting. Why are you making a fuss?" Aiden, who came with us, quickly explained. "Sorry, doctor. He's the accompanying family member." She looked at me, then at Dylan, and said, "Oh, the accompanying family member, right?" My face flushed instantly. I pushed Dylan aside. "Doctor, thank you." After disinfection, the doctor went to get the gauze and Yunnan Bayou spray. Seeing that I was okay, Aiden rushed back to get justice for me with Mason. Dylan and I were waiting in the school infirmary. After thinking it over, I finally spoke up. "How about we clarify this?" He looked at me in surprise. It took him a while to realize what I was saying. Then he slowly nodded and said, "It's okay. I'll follow your lead. Are all good students like them so easygoing? Since I've already said it." "All right, then. What to clarify?" An annoying voice came from the door of the infirmary. Daniel rushed in through the door. The unexpected uninvited guest really gave me a fright. I turned around wanting to call Dylan. And coincidentally, he was right beside me. As I turned back, my wide-open mouth that was about to shout brushed past his face. It seemed like a little bit of saliva was left behind. Oh no! Did we just kiss? My first kiss. Dylan was obviously in a similar state, with his face blushing all the way to the ears. Only Daniel kept harping on that sentence. "Come on. Tell me in detail what you're going to clarify." Daniel's eyes were shining, as if his face was saying, "I've caught you red-handed." Dylan silently looked at me, seemingly waiting for me to make a statement. Thinking of the embarrassing kiss just now, I simply said bluntly, "You really came at a bad time. Dylan and I were in the middle of halfway through when you showed up." "What? Looking for trouble?" Daniel was skeptical, but since I didn't admit it, he had no choice but to casually throw over a bottle of medicine. "Here, they were rough on you." As Daniel was leaving, he happened to run into Aiden and Mason who were coming over. When they saw Daniel, they were clearly annoyed. They jeered at him before letting him go. "Actually, Daniel came here to bring me medicine." Mason snorted and said, "I hope so. Just now, we gave those guys a good lesson for you. Do they think we're pushovers? It's a pity for Nolan. Our dorm is on the 5th floor. Let's take turns carrying you upstairs." "It's okay. I can hop up on one foot." "That won't do." Dylan, who had been silent by the side, suddenly spoke up. "Come and live with me." "What?" I thought I had misheard him for a moment. Dylan explained. "I don't live in the dorm. I live in an apartment off campus." Mason and Aiden beside them nudged each other, wearing an excited look on their faces. Dylan coughed twice and said, "They targeted you because of me. I should be responsible for you both morally and rationally." I looked at Aiden in embarrassment, hoping he could speak up for me. Instead, he pushed me towards Dylan. "Did you hear that, our handsome school hunk? Dylan is going to take responsibility for you. With such a good thing. Go quickly. Otherwise, we'll have to figure out how to move you to the 5th floor." I shouldn't have counted on them. Dylan pursed his lips, and there was a glimmer of expectation in his eyes. I averted my eyes and said, "Well, then, thanks for the trouble." I overestimated Dylan's apartment. There's only one bed, and the living space is quite limited. It's simply not big enough for 2 people. I glanced at the next door room. Since there was no sign of activity, I suggested, "Is there someone living next door? If not, I'm thinking of renting it for a few days." Without even thinking, Dylan replied, "Yes, someone's living there." "Oh." Dylan put a Simmons mattress beside the bed and said, "You sleep in the bed. I'll just sleep on the floor." After taking a quick shower and getting into bed, I just couldn't fall asleep soundly. Dylan was sleeping under the bed. He was very quiet and hardly made any sound. On the contrary, I tossed and turned and couldn't fall asleep. I felt a bit guilty. A few seconds later, I heard a very soft sigh from the person under the bed. Finally, I found an opportunity. "Dylan, are you still awake?" Dylan gave a soft response. I moved towards the edge of the bed to make room for Dylan and said, "Why don't you come and sleep in the bed?" After waiting for a few seconds, there was still no movement from Dylan. I simply got out of bed and turned on the light. "Anyway, your bed is big enough. We should be able to sleep in it if we squeeze a bit. Besides, it's nothing for 2 guys to sleep in the same bed."